Welcome to the Interstate Mets Report with your hosts, Nelson and Chris.
What is up to my fellow good people of this Mets fanhood? It is your boy CP, and I am joined by my co-host Nelson, aka Amish Country Mets fan. What up, Nelson?
Yep.
How are you, man?
Hanging in there.
I think that the collective Mets fan base can pretty much say the same. So, we got some topics for you all. It's been a brutal past week. A lot going on in the Mets world. Obviously, coming off an ugly series, which we will touch on in this little episode as well. Appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, make sure you hit that thumbs up on this. Drop a comment. Drop your comments in the comment section. We'll get to any and all comments that are about the Mets in this episode, per usual. We always do that. Most importantly, follow us at Interstate Mets on Twitter. Our live streams are going. We're not doing the live streams to at Interstate Mets. We're doing it on our personal Twitters, but we are promoting our stuff on there as well. So make sure you go ahead and follow that. Make sure you are following at Amish Country Met on Twitter. Really good stuff out of Nelson. He also has a TikTok and Instagram. Go ahead and follow him at Amish Country Mets fan. And then last but not least, we have Amish Country Mets fan on YouTube. If you're listening on my YouTube at CPNY Sports, go to Amish Country Mets fan. It's in the description. His profile, his YouTube is in the description. I linked it. Go click on the subscribe button on his channel. Just go do it. You won't regret it. That's all I have to say. My YouTube channel, as you can tell, it's going to be in the bottom right-hand corner. You can hit the subscribe button right while you're watching this video. It's at CPNY Sports. It's in the lower right hand. There's no reason not to click that button. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at CPNY Sports. It's CPNY Sports all around. All right. We got a lot to talk about here. We got a lot to dive into. We're making topics out of nothing pretty much, but that's what we do best, and that's what we're going to be doing best for the next 2 months or so. Let's go ahead and just kick things off by going over some of Mr. Cohen's comments that we saw. Obviously, post-trade deadline, everybody's waiting to hear from Steve Cohen. We heard Billy Epler's comments about 2024, all that good stuff about what Max Scherzer was told, all that good stuff. Steve Cohen apparently had a fraternity brothers meeting or whatnot in Kansas City that was already pre-planned in Kansas City, but I guess he diverted a little bit of his plans to go meet the Mets, take a couple of press conference questions, and I guess address the clubhouse first and foremost, from what we know. Nelson, I know you heard his comments. They were pretty consistent, I would say. I don't know if he's bluffing. I don't know what the deal is. They were pretty consistent to what Billy Epler was saying. He had a little bit of a strong assertion in there that he is the owner. So all of these decisions that happened at the trade deadline were run by him and accepted by him. What do you make of his comments that he made to the reporters before the Kansas City Royals? I guess it was game 2 that he appeared. What do you make of his comments? Are you concerned at all with what he said? Just give me your initial thoughts and opinions on that.
All right. Well, first off, I can't pass up saying what's up to future Met Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Gotta do it. Love it.
So what up, buddy? And then he asked, knowing what you know now, would you raise your children as a Met? I have a daughter, and I am raising her as a Met fan no matter what. I don't think CP has any kids unless he's hiding something.
No, I don't got any kids, but you know what? They're going to be forced to go through and endure the same pain as me, so.
What up, Stevie Mac? Anyways, sorry, I just had to say what's up. All right. So I got a lot to say. And I feel bad because I'm going to spring a couple things on you. We got to talk about 2 things that aren't on this topic list today. We got to talk about Brandon Nimmo. And we got to talk about Pete Alonso.
We did whatever you want. This is our platform. This is what we're going to talk about, and let's
a rough couple days, so I didn't get a chance to get my. ideas out there, do you? But yeah, we got to bring that up at some point. But anyways, I'll start with Steve. I got no issue with what he said. First off, he was very, I liked he was kind of trolling the reporters. He's like, I told you guys what I was going to do. I told you a month ago when we sat here and had my little press conference that if things were stayed the same, I was going to sell off pieces and I was going to build this farm system. If you chose not to believe him, that's on you. He's man his word. Now, he is very careful with his words, though, because he said, I couldn't make the commitment to Max at the moment, or something along those lines, that we were going to go all in on free agency next year. But the key word was right now. He couldn't commit right now. He doesn't have a president of baseball operations, which he plans on hiring. And things can just change. It's only August. Between now and the end of the season, he could totally change his mind. Another thing he said, he's opportunistic. He's used that term before. When he signed or tried to sign Correa, that came out of nowhere. That was him being opportunistic. It didn't work out, the injury, whatnot, but whatever. So I fully expect him to be opportunistic. And if, hey, Yamamoto is out there to sign and the deal looks intriguing enough, I feel like he'll spend the money. If he thinks Shohei is actually interested in coming here, I'm almost positive he will make a run at him. I think the thing is he's trying to temper expectations, and I don't blame him because I'm sure the man, he gets on Twitter. He doesn't post anymore, but he sees, and he's probably constantly getting bombarded with people just harassing him about the 3 to 5 years and about you need to go after this guy and we were supposed to win and this and that and the other. He's probably tired and wants, let's be honest, he probably wants to tell them all to shut the F up, but he can't do that.
Turn the comments off because I'm the one that I tag him in tweets. I do my due diligence and I tag him.
Everybody does. And even if he turns it off, I'm sure he's curious and he looks. So when he's reading all this crap, I'm sure he's sick and tired of it. And he's like, I need to get these people off my back. What's the best way to get these people off my back? Tell them I don't plan on doing crap this offseason. It's going to annoy them, but at least their expectations won't be sky high. They won't think I'm going to sign every free agent imaginable. And I don't blame him for that. And even if he doesn't do it, if he is legit being completely honest and doesn't sign a bunch of free agents, I don't blame him. He's spent a ton of money on this team. He said it himself. He's got tons of dead money now on this roster, off of this roster, and he's just paying guys to not play for him. So if he pulls back a little bit, I get it. And to be honest, yeah, if we don't compete next year, I think we're going to compete. I think it'll be fine. But if we have another down year, what's it to me? I've been a Mets fan for I'm 30, 30 years now. Because I'm 36, so 6 years old is around when I can remember, 5 or 6. I've been a Mets fan for 30 years. I'm used to losing. One more year ain't gonna make a difference to me. So I didn't have a problem with what he said. Do I believe all of it? It depends on how you want to read it. He like I said, he's very careful with his words. So if you choose to just take it as, oh, we're not spending any money and we're not going to compete, then you choose to take it that way. I choose to take it a little differently. So that's what I feel about his comments.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. 110%. And I mean, the Mets really can, though, realistically take two different routes in terms of the 2024 season. We'll see what they choose to take. I would understand it either way. But before I get into that, obviously, if you're tuning in, appreciate you. Make sure you hit that thumbs up for us, and keep commenting your thoughts. I want to be a little bit interactive on here. Get to some comments before I talk about my comments. Stevie Mac, what up? Stevie Mac's in the house. Mad Karen Scherzer. Yeah, man. Did you see the way, like, a little side note that, the difference between Scherzer and Verlander's pressers when they got to their new teams? Like, do you have any, like, thoughts about that in terms of how class full and classless those two guys were? Verlander being the class full guy,
Yeah,
very classy, thanked the Mets, says he thinks nothing but highly of the Mets, and Scherzer kind of exposing their inner conversations and sort of putting them on blast. What'd you think of that, Nelson, real quick before I get into Steve Cohen's comments
well,
myself?
that's the difference right there. It's Justin Verlander is classy, Max Scherzer isn't. Listen, every single Met that got traded, I'm pretty sure, put out a thank you tweet or a thank you comment and was like, "Oh, Steve is great and the organization is great and this and that and the other." Who's the only one that didn't say shit and all he did was trash us on the way out? It was Max Scherzer. So it says something about him more so than it says something about the Mets. Like he knew what he was doing when he made those comments public. He wanted to throw Billy under the bus. So that's fine. I mean, I still think they kind of lied to you to get you out of here, to be honest. But I mean, it's whatever. I just think I never really liked the guy to begin with. I was fine signing him, but I mean, he was never like a fan favorite. He was the enemy before he came here. Like it was hard to really like embrace a guy like that. So it's whatever. I'm just glad he's gone.
Also, I mean, not any shade at his career. He's definitely a Hall of Famer, but he's been thrown around in a couple teams now. And if he was on the Mets next season, he would be a 4 at best, anyways, in my humble opinion. Especially if they, and if they did keep him, they would probably be fully committed to winning, and they'd probably make either a trade or a couple of free agent signings. So he'd definitely be a 4. He's definitely not an ace type guy anymore. Like Verlander still has the opportunity to be an ace, and he will be in Houston for however long he's there. But Max Scherzer is just not that guy anymore. Some more comments. Yoshinobu, what up, Mr. Yamamoto? Rate my Mets 2024 pitching staff. 1 Yamamoto, 2 Senga, 3 Urias, 4 Burns, 5 Quintana. I like that a lot, actually. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if it's that in that order. I think probably it's Burns, Urias, Senga, Yamamoto, Quintana at that point. But yeah, I mean that's very plausible too. I hope you know that. Like if Steve Cohen decides that, hey, listen, we're gonna field a competitive roster and he signs Yamamoto and Urias, which I love those two guys. I would be on board with that. And he says, well, let's surprise some people. And we're going to be talking about Ronny Mauricio coming up, but let's go trade for Corbin Burns. David Stearns is here. He knows Corbin Burns pretty well. Let's go trade for him. I think it's pretty plausible. Do you like that starting rotation right here on the screen, Nelson?
Yeah, I like it, but I mean, if you take Billy and Steve for what they're saying, I don't know if it's that realistic that we're going to go out and spend that much money, um, including trading for Burns. Maybe. I mean, you never know. It could be that he decides I was going to try to sign Ohtani anyway, so why not just spread the wealth around to all these other guys? That's possible. Um, so we'll see. I mean, I like it. That's a very solid rotation. You can't argue with that. Like you said, the order might be a little different, but I mean,
Yeah.
Yamamoto looks like a stud. He's young. I like it. We know what Senga is. Urias, I'm not in love with
Dude, I
Urias.
like Urias, man. I like
Compared to all
Urias.
the other options, he's probably the best one of the group. He's had such a down year that he scares me. And then Burns, I mean, Burns is solid. You can't really argue with that. And like you said, Stearns knows him. If Stearns is the guy in charge, it would make some sense. So, I mean, we'll see. It's a long ways away. We got a lot can happen, but I could definitely see at least one or two of those guys end up in New York for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I got Stevie Max saying that Max got rocked in his first start too. Gave up 3 runs in the first, looked decent the rest of the way, ended up getting the win because the Rangers came back. So that's how that went. But yeah, and Steve's comments, man, I don't have a problem with what he said. I think he's keeping it real. I think, like you said, there's a definite possibility that he is lowering expectations strategically, not only for the fans' sake and for his sort of Twitter pressure, but also because, other teams might look at that, believe what he's saying, and not expect the Mets to be any sort of competition in terms of free agency this 2024. And you get David Stearns in here, and Cohen's like, listen, I lied to these guys. Go do what you got to do. And then who knows, a little sneak attack, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I get it, though. If the Mets really don't want to sign the top end guys in 2024, I understand it. The prospects are more aligned to be competitive in 2025 anyways, not only with the ones coming up who will be rookies at that point if they pan out, but also the second year and third year guys who are still getting that major league experience under the belt. You talk about a Juan Soto. We've talked about him numerous times on here as a free agent. Couple free agents and, pitching wise, I think as bad as the 2024 class for pitching is, I think the 2025 class is even worse, minus maybe like a Max Fried or Garrett Cole if he opts out. But I don't know, man. I can see either happening. But the thing is like, obviously, you don't want to rely on these prospects. Like, you're going to have to make trades. That's a given, right? We don't have 6 or 7 shortstops in the farm system not to make trades. And relying to be contenders and relying on rookies, 6 or 7 rookies in your lineup, is not plausible anyways. So there's going to have to be a mixture of bringing these guys up, developing them, but also being like, hey, we need to cut ties with so-and-so as good as they are, whatever, because we need that, A bat or that other bat in the lineup. And I guess that can really bring us into our off-topic conversations and Mr. Alonso and what his future holds with the Mets. Obviously, we've seen the discussions with the reporters saying that the Mets, I think DeComo tweeted out, set a very high price around the league on Pete Alonso at the deadline, meaning they were actively shopping him, taking offers and fielding offers on him, but they set probably an unrealistic expectation in return just to see who would bite and who's interested, and I guess get the playing field for him and get an awareness of that.
Who told you a month ago that was a good idea?
You did say it. You did say, well, I don't know if you said it would be a good idea. Well, you did say it was a good idea. You did say it. I agree. I will give you that credit, 100%. But now the discussion is that a good idea moving forward? Knowing what we know now in 2024, obviously Pete Alonso has a year control left in 2024 before he's due that extension from whoever it comes from, whatever team he's on. Next year is going to be arbitration. Do you think that Pete Alonso, and I have my opinions on this, man. I love Pete Alonso, and I'm not saying that Pete Alonso should be a Met because I love him. I'm saying that Pete Alonso genuinely, his talent, his power, and his years that he hits 250, 260 while giving you 40-plus home runs, right? I get it. That's not this year. He's at 31, hitting 218. But he's usually in the 240s, 250s, even 260s while giving you upwards of 40, right? 35 to 40. That doesn't grow on trees, in my opinion. I think he's 28 or 20. I think he's going to be 29 next year. So he's decently young, entering the prime of his career. I think that he should be a Met long term because I just genuinely think that this is a fluke season. Not as the home runs go or the RBIs, but just the average and the way that he's pulling off the ball and not hitting the ball at all fields. What do you think the Mets should do going forward? What do you think the Pete Alonso situation looks like this offseason? And were you surprised, and I'm going to say, are you surprised, you're the one that brought it up a month ago, that the Mets actually went ahead and fielded offers for him? But also, the kicker to this question, it's a lot to think about, I know. But also, what do you think that does to Pete Alonso mentally in terms of how he views the Mets now versus when he thought that he was safe with the Mets and going to be for sure getting that extension?
I'll start with that one because if he's as soft as some of his teammates, then he's going to clam up and turn into a shadow of himself. Hopefully that's not the case. Like I said, I've never wanted to trade Alonso, but I thought just given the writing on the wall and the way things were going, it wouldn't be a bad idea to shop him, set a high price, and see if someone would bite. And it sounds like that's exactly what the Mets did. They didn't get an offer they liked, so they didn't trade him. I got no problem with that. I think it's smart. Like, if somebody's going to blow you away and give you a package that you never saw coming, then why the hell not? To me, that package has to start with major league ready players, though. I'm not looking for prospects that are 4 or 5 years away for Pete Alonso. I'm just not. I need either very young talent that just came up and is doing very well, or somebody somewhat established that's a star. And trade maybe star for star kind of deal. But my first goal would be to sign him. The thing is if he's not going to sign a team friendly deal, he's having a down year. If he's thinking he's getting, I don't know, Matt Olson
What's
money,
team
Freddie
friendly?
Freeman.
What's team friendly? Because Matt Olson's making, I think, a little bit less than 25, if I'm not mistaken. Goldschmidt's making 27 a year, and Freddie Freeman's making 28 a year. So what do you think? What's team friendly to you for Pete Alonso?
To me, team friendly is like 20. Maybe a little more than that.
I don't know if that's happening.
And if he doesn't want to go there, that's fine. I wouldn't offer him that much more, though. Pete Alonso scares me. His profile scares. I know he's been pretty consistent, but I don't know, man. He gives me the vibe of the kind of guy that could fall off into that deal. And granted, most free agents do later in their deals. They don't live up to it. I'm just afraid of giving him closer to 30 million a year. Because
but
go ahead.
No, and that's valid. But my counter argument to that, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing, is that minus what kind of confidence or what kind of confidence boost that would give him, or ego, I should say, what's another between 20 to 25 to 30, what's that extra 10 million to Steve Cohen?
I mean, it might not be anything, or he might be thinking, I got a ton of young kids that are going to free agents in a few years, and I'm going to have to pay them too. I mean, it's a lot to weigh. I would try to sign him. I'm not saying, I mean, if you give him 25-ish, fine. It's not my money. I don't really care. I would just be hesitant to throw like I said, throw close to 30 million at him. And if you offer him that and he thinks he's worth more and he doesn't want to sign, then that's not on the Mets. That's on Pete Alonso. If he chooses he doesn't want to take that deal, then what? I mean, you can only do so much. So at that point, you have to entertain trading him, because what's to let him walk? I don't think that's a good idea. So I would just be open to anything, man. I would talk to him in the offseason, see where he's at, try to get him signed. But if we're getting in closer to the season and he's not budging and not willing to meet you at your number, then maybe it's time to move on. I'd rather they not. I'd rather they sign him for multiple reasons. It'd be cool to have him be a Met for life. And for my sanity, to be honest, because I do not want to hear the Mets fans complaining and moaning and crying over Pete Alonso. I've seen them crying over Mark freaking Canha. Like, if they're crying over Mark Canha, you're gonna have suicide watch on like every Met fan in the New York City area if Pete Alonso's gone. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I'm personally, and maybe it's because I grew up in a day with the Wilpons and they hammered it home. I never get attached to players, man. I have my favorites, but it's really hard to get attached to. My favorite player that didn't finish his career with the Mets. He didn't even start it with the Mets. Mike Piazza is my favorite Met. He started with the Dodgers, ended up here after going to the Marlins briefly, and the Mets let him go at the end of his career. Would I have loved to have seen him finish his career as a Met? Sure. But I can't. This is why you can't get attached to these dudes, because it just never works out. Jose Reyes, everybody loved Jose Reyes. He left. David Wright stayed because it was a team-friendly deal, to be honest. He took less money. He wanted to stay. He wanted to be a Met for life. And then he ended up getting hurt, so it didn't even work out. Jacob deGrom left. I didn't get attached to him either. I'm good riddance. See ya. It's just I get it. I get people have their favorite players. Like Lindor's my favorite Met right now. If they got rid of him, would I be happy? No, but it is what it is. It's a business. I've learned not to. I'm a fan of the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. Like, so that's where I'm at with it. Like, I'd love to keep him, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm not gonna stop watching the Mets because Pete Alonso's not a Met anymore.
No, and I think I've seen those tweets like, you'll never get a dime, like you'll never like get any of my money. I'm not going to go to any games if you trade Pete Alonso. I will say though that Jose Reyes when he left, that hurt my soul a little bit. Like that was my all-time favorite Met. That hurt my soul. But you saw Jose Reyes fell off when he went to Miami. And then his career just hit a downward spiral even after that batting title, right? With the Mets. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, even though he's my favorite player, the Mets ended up
Grass
being
isn't always greener on the other side.
exactly. No, I agree. Let's see, let's get to some comments before we'll hit the other part of it here too. We might go a little bit overboard today. We'll try to speed up the rest of this, but I think this is a good discussion that we're having. I think it's a much needed one with the state of the Mets. I think right here, Mr. Nimmo. Nimmo has been hurt with a pulled hammy or quad or whatever leg injury he has since the trade deadline. Is he pretending to be hurt, and is he actually protesting the Mets selling? Nelson, I know you have something to say on this. I want to get to a couple other comments here. We'll talk about Mr. Nimmo right afterward. Stevie Mac says, I think another reason they listen to offers on Pete is because they're not exactly sure what his worth is. His power is amazing, but everything else skill-wise is average at best. His fielding's not the best, completely agree. He's not going to hit 300 for you. He'll hit 260. People can argue about his clutchness. I don't know if he's entirely clutch. I don't think he's just a pure garbage time hitter like everyone likes to make him out to be. I don't think that at all, but his clutchness can be questioned at times as well. Let's see here. We got a couple other comments as well. Rate my Pete Alonso trade. I don't know these guys. I know that's 1-4 in their farm system. I don't know their stats. I'm not going to rate that because I'm not in the mindset of rating Pete Alonso trades right now. To be honest with you, I don't know about you. But.
I wouldn't jump at a trade like that. Those are very good players. Again, I need more established guys for Pete Alonso. I need somebody that I know is more than likely going to be a stud for us, not kind of a prayer.
Yeah. If they got rid of Francisco Alvarez, then we right. I agree. Francisco Alvarez is not going anywhere. And then they do have a possible future replacement with Clifford. Most people say he should move to first base full time. That's an interesting one. Parada is also a name that you can throw out there. We'll get to the prospects list. At the end of this video, we're going to be tossing out the new prospect rankings and talking about a couple of the newly acquired ones, including Clifford. But give me your Nimmo thoughts. I know you have some strong opinions about this one. Give me your Nimmo.
I have a nickname for Nimmo. I can't say it on the show because we're trying this. Although I already slipped. I always slip up at least once an episode with the language. Try not to. I try my best. But it rhymes with witch and toy. You can figure it out. I mean, what are you worried about? You signed an 8-year contract. You're going to be here. Him and Francisco Lindor are the only two dudes with like really long-term contracts, because you could argue McNeil only signed a 4-year deal. That's easier to get rid of. Lindor and Nimmo were here. They're probably going to be here for the majority of their contracts. What is he crying about? Because we might have another down year next year. What? Are you afraid to lose Pete? Is that what you're whining about? I don't understand what that was about, why he was pouting, and keep it to yourself. Like, to be honest, like, you don't have to say that to the media. You don't. Just don't say, oh yeah, I had a talk with Billy. Leave it at that. Not, I lost sleep because I was thinking about what the conversation was gonna be. Like, come on, bro. How old are you? Grow up. Grow a set. Like, I was not happy with that. Not at all. It annoyed me. And I'm not saying get rid of him or anything like that. It's just hard for me to get behind a guy that has that kind of weak mentality to me. And I know people won't, not everyone will agree, and that's fine. And just to touch on not only him and Alonso, but you watch it as well, and I'm not going to call out specific names, but there's a certain other show where there's a certain person that his mentality is just trade everybody. Listen, you can't do that. You have to have, and that's one of the reasons I hesitate to trade Alonso, because you can't just play nothing but kids. This isn't the Pirates. This isn't the Oakland A's. You can't do that. You have to have some veteran presence, some veteran leadership. You have to have established players. If not, you're going to be on a rebuild for 5, 6, 7 years. And I'm sorry, but you're going to complain and moan and cry over it if it happens. So don't give me I just trade everybody, because no, you wouldn't. Because when it happens, you will lose it. So if you can talk a big game, and I'm not saying that in general, if you're in that mindset of let's just trade everybody, they all suck, the core doesn't work. All right, fine. We can do that. But you better know it's going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 years before this team fields a winner. So let's slow our roll on trading everybody. Yeah, some people annoy me. Yes, McNeil's on my list, and I would definitely trade him, but I don't view him as part of the core anyway. But guys like Alonso, Lindor, Nimmo, even though he annoyed me, I wouldn't just trade them. Like, if you're going to trade them, you really need to think about what you're getting in return and make sure that it sets you up to be able to compete. Because if it doesn't, then I pass.
No, I agree. Those people who want to trade everybody are the same ones who will kill the Mets if those prospects they end up getting back or whoever they get back don't pan out. So I don't buy into that, especially not Alonso, man. I hear you, field the calls on him, whatever. But man, listen, Pete Alonso doesn't come around very often. So and I said it, the last Met to hit 40 home runs, other than Pete Alonso, who's done it twice already, was Carlos Beltran in 06. So come on now, let's be a little bit realistic in our expectations. Aaron says, on the topic of McNeil, what kind of value does McNeil have if you trade him?
I mean, right at this moment, not a ton. Ideally, I'd like him to have a very good August and September and build that up a little bit. I mean, what he has is that he's a very versatile player. You can stick him almost anywhere on the diamond. And I think teams do value something like that. Plus, he is a former batting champion. I'll give him his credit. Like, he's got talent. It's just very, I don't know. It's just one track with him. Like, if he's not hitting 300, he's not providing all that much. So I think he could build his value a little bit, but right now, no, he didn't. That's why I don't mind that they didn't trade him this deadline, because he really didn't have a lot of value. Like, you would be selling really low. So ideally, he would perform pretty well these last 2 months, and maybe in the offseason you could revisit trading him. Because let's be honest, we do have a ton of middle infield prospects, and they're not all going to be able to move to the outfield. So you're going to have to figure something out.
Not only that, we have now reinforcements in the outfield too. So it's kind of like, well, where does McNeil slot in? So I agree, it's not the right time to trade him. But do I think he finishes his Mets tenure over the course of this 4-year contract by the time it's done? If he starts performing well again, I think we see McNeil out of here, just because we've seen his highs, we've seen his lows, and I think that the lows that we get from McNeil outweigh whatever he brings when he's pretty much playing at his best. So, and I get it, the batting title, all that good stuff. I get that. I get that piece. But, and people said it about Luis Arias too, when he was hitting 400, whenever he was hitting like this remarkable mark in the season, he's only slapping, singles and whatever. And there's something to be said for that. I completely agree, but it is just it is what it is. And McNeil is the same type of player. But let's move on here. I know there's a couple of other comments that are directly related to Ronny Mauricio, which we will be getting into here shortly as well. Let's move on and just briefly, and I mean briefly, touch on this debacle of a series that we just saw in Kansas City. And the only reason why I wanted to bring this up is because of that just absolutely atrocious game 1 loss on the box. So, Nelson, give me your thoughts. Ottavino, Rayleigh crapped the bed. Alvarez hit that go-ahead 2-run bomb late in the game. I think it was an extra innings, and then Brooks Rayleigh. I forgot who it was that came in. It was a combination of Rayleigh, Hartwig, and then Josh Walker, who just put the icing on the cake there with the balk. So obviously we know what we're gonna get with the Mets here. That was atrocious. You get swept by a bottom 2 to 3 team in the MLB record wise. Guys just not doing well. I do like the sporadic, at bats that I saw from Mark Vientos, though. I think that was a plus. Mark Vientos looked pretty good. Pete Alonso had a pretty decent series. Alvarez's home run, but other than that, not really much to write home about. Brief thoughts, and then we'll move on to Ron.
I don't care. I mean, I have to be honest. Like, I'm an idiot. I'm watching. The middle game I shut off after like the second inning, but the other 2 games I pretty much watched the whole thing. I'll more than likely be watching the majority of these games, even though there's no real reason to. And it's not for the team performance. I want to see how the individual guys do. I want to see Alvarez, how he's improving. I want to see Beatty. Hopefully he picks it up. I want to see Lindor. Can he maybe get to 30-30? He's definitely on pace for the homers. The steals, he has to pick it up a little bit. Alonso, I want to see how does he handle this quote-unquote adversity, not knowing whether he's going to be here or not. Nimmo, is he going to stop whining like a little, McNeil, is he ever going to get over these temper tantrums he throws every day on the field? I want to see stuff like that. The pitching's atrocious. I can't even, unless we bring up some kids to pitch at some point. Carrasco, I don't care what he does. I really don't care what Quintana does. I care what Senga does. Senga, I want to see him pitch. Every Senga start, I'll be there for sure.
He struggled a little bit.
Yeah, he did. Apparently, he's had some issues with the mound or something, which is whatever. I mean, he's still adjusting. It's an adjustment. The dude pitched in Japan his whole career. This is totally different. And every new park he goes to, I feel like it's different. It's a different, because not every park's mound is the same, and not so this. It's all an adjustment for him. So, I mean, that first game they should have won it. Alvarez hits that homer, puts them up, and then the bullpen does what the bullpen's done all season. It's not like it's a shocker. Funny enough, Robertson went to Miami and blew 2 games in a row. So it's just I don't know. It's hard to really care, to be honest. It's hard to say I want them to lose because I don't really want them to lose. I never root for them to lose. But at the same time, it is better if they lose, because if they sneak into that top 6 picks, they don't drop 10 spots. So you kind of want them to lose. I mean, it's sucky to say that, but it's just being honest. If you're thinking about the team's long-term future, then a top 6 draft pick would be very nice.
Now, is that top 6? Is that record-wise, or does that still factor in the lottery?
No, they have to do the lottery. They just have higher odds. The worse their record, they have better odds of falling in that top 6. So the more you lose, the more likely you get in that top.
Got it. Okay, yeah, and honestly, yeah, I mean, it might be better off. I saw numerous Giants tank jobs the last couple of years, obviously outside of last year. So, I mean, it is what it is. I can go through 2 months of tanking for the Mets. Mr. Yamamoto said he got hurt when Daniel Murphy left, and they let him sign with the Nats. Mets didn't even meet with him. Yeah, that was kind of a shocker. That they didn't even meet with him or offer him a contract. I don't even think, but after that postseason run. But yeah, let's get into it. We have a couple comments here about Mauricio, so we'll get right into the next topic of discussion. And it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting because obviously we know that Mr. Vogelback and Mr. DJ Stewart and Danny Mendick are still on the roster. We got Ariuz and Rafael Ortega coming up from AAA, but no signs of Mr. Ronny Mauricio just yet. Obviously, there was a thing that we discussed, me and you, about the service time, and obviously, sometime in August is the cutoff of when a rookie still remains a rookie for that season. We saw it with Beatty. Last season, he came up towards the tail end of the year. Obviously, remained. He got his rookie status still protected at that point. So it could be a combination of that. Let's see what some of the comments are here. Joe DeMayo on a pod yesterday said that Mauricio could be a contract thing if they wait until after August 19th. That's the deadline, right? They get another year of him being cheap on his contract. So if you have service time manipulations in the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. So that August 19th mark, which I was just talking about, is the cutoff time for a rookie to maintain that rookie status for the following season. So you can get an extra year of Ronny Mauricio, which, listen, all right, I'm going to say it makes sense to keep him down at that point until August 19th. I will say that. So we will be talking about this on August 19th. What else did we have here on Mr. Ronny Mauricio before we let you get your thoughts off, Nelson? Aaron says, is Mauricio that bad where we haven't seen him in majors yet? No, he's not doing bad at all in AAA, to be honest with you. I just saw a couple of videos of him, had a couple of base knocks. He's been solid all season. I don't think he's having a spectacular year. I don't think he's like killing it. Like, he's not killing it by any means, where you're like, well, why is this guy like, he's like the Babe Ruth of AAA. He's not killing it in AAA. He's having a good, serviceable season. What are your thoughts on the Ronny Mauricio situation? I mean, we've talked about this so many times already. I just want to revisit it because obviously we still have these guys that I just mentioned, these, I will say scrubs, to be honest with you, these journeymen on the roster right now that we saw in the Royals series. What's going on with Ronny Mauricio, man? And how would you like to utilize him moving forward? Does it make sense to even bring him up this year? Does he fit into that DH role that we want him to? Or would you, going back to Pete Alonso, move Pete Alonso to the DH role moving forward, find a trade partner for Ronny Mauricio, and maybe have Kevin Parada or Ryan Clifford, if Ryan Clifford plays a good first base, try them out at first base? What's the move, Nelson?
That's a lot to think about. I wouldn't hate. We both brought it up at the same time, and like that show I was talking about earlier, DHing Alonso, moving forward, and finding a first baseman. What I don't know that I want to automatically give it to one of those kids. I need to see more. I think they haven't even played first base yet. And Clifford, I wouldn't be so sure if he. Scouting reports I read on him said he can stick in the outfield. So we'll see. I mean, first base would be the next alternative for sure. Parada probably going to be a first baseman, but again, he hasn't played there yet. So we need to start seeing these guys play these different positions before we just slot them in. But I like the idea, whether it's a kid or whether you trade for a first baseman on some other team, or sign a first baseman and talk to Pete. Because I know Pete's stubborn. He's always said he likes to play first. But if it's better for the team, man, then you need to do what you need to do. I don't know. You're not a Gold Glover. I know you said you want to win a Gold Glove. You're not. He's regressed a little bit, if we're being honest, in the field. So if we decide to keep him long term, I would have that conversation with him. I'd be like, hey, our plans are to have you be our DH. It solves a major issue because we had DH issues now for 2 years running. And then we get a first baseman. So that's a conversation I'd certainly have with him. As far as Mauricio, listen, we've talked about it. We both have wanted him up. At this point, I don't really even care. I don't know what they're doing necessarily. If it's a contract thing, then I get it. Wait till the 19th. That's fine. Once they bring him up, I hope they play him in the field just because I'd like to get a sense of what he can do in the field and not just automatically DH a kid. Put him out there at left. Put him out there at second. See where he looks better. Move him around a little bit. that's what I would use the final couple months for. If they decide not to do that, if they just want to let him keep learning those positions in the minors, I guess I understand it. It sucks because we're stuck watching these, like you said, scrubs. But at this point, does it make a difference? Not really. And like you said, who knows if maybe their thoughts are, let's not weaken his trade value. And let's see if there's a deal available for him in the offseason where we can improve the club somewhere else. That's also an option. So I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing him out there for sure. But if he's not, then I'm not going to cry about it at this point. I've kind of given in. It's like, all right, Mets, do what you're going to do.
No, I completely agree. I just did it right here while you're talking. Mauricio hitting 290, 827 OPS, 16 home runs, 16 stolen bases this season in AAA. So he's having a good year, man. He's having a good year. Nothing spectacular. He's not hitting 300 plus with 30 plus bombs in AAA. He's having a solid year. 16 stolen bases too is a good little speed there too. Nothing too overwhelming like Luis Angel Acuna with his 40 plus down in AA this season so far. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens. It's not something that I'm clamoring over at this point because I wanted to see him when it actually mattered, right? When the Mets were still sort of in contention before the trade deadline, before they traded the pieces off. That's when they could have used Ronny Mauricio over Daniel Vogelback. But at this point, listen, you said it. We're not actively rooting for the Mets to lose, but it could be better for them if they do. So it's a win-win situation for the Mets. As us fans, we see them win, we see them lose. It's good either way, right? Stevie Max says something that I've been saying so long already. If we don't see Ronny Mauricio this season, he's getting traded. I definitely agree. I think that it's going to happen this offseason. Whatever Steve Cohen wants to tell you or not in those comments that we talked about, I think if we don't see Ronny Mauricio and he's not part of their plans, maybe a discussion that David Stearns has to have when he comes on board. And we're saying David Stearns in all these videos like it's some lock to happen. Like, we don't know. It would be the most Mets thing ever for David Stearns to just be like, nah, no thanks. And we're just sitting there and the Mets are scrambling because they don't have a plan B. Now, if they don't have a plan B or plan C already lined up, then that's just bad planning. But like, we're saying David Stearns because that's what Mr. Heyman tweeted. That's what all these guys are saying. I guess they think it's a lock, but we don't know for sure. So whoever the president of baseball operation is, that might be a conversation for them with Steve Cohen. So, but I definitely agree. You could package him for maybe an outfielder. I don't think an outfielder. I don't think you package Ronny Mauricio at this point in terms of roster need going forward for anything minus maybe a younger caliber pitcher, or an ace that has a little bit of control left. We'll see. I mean, maybe that takes away the Burns thing, but maybe you can negotiate a contract extension with Burns before you even pull that trade. And that's something that you can negotiate in the offseason when David Stearns is here, right? So we'll see what happens with Ronny Mauricio. I feel bad for him, though, because, he's itching to get up. And it sucks for him as a young kid doing his due diligence and doing whatever it takes and seeing Mr. Daniel Vogelback go out there, get chance after chance after chance after chance after chance after chance after chance, and just sitting there in AAA, like, what more do I need to do? It really does, that would make me angry. And I know that he's voiced some frustrations early on in the season. There was a couple of reports out there saying that, but it's nothing like he can't do anything about it. So it is what it is. It's unfortunate for him, but we'll see. August 19th is coming up shortly, so we'll see there. We got about 10 to 15 minutes left here, Nelson. I wanted to go over some updated prospect rankings. I want to get into that discussion. We have a new pipeline of prospect rankings that I went and did the due diligence. I'm not sure if it's going to be completely visible, legible here, but we have the 1 through 15, and then we'll go through the 1 through 30 here. And I want to highlight maybe some movements that we've seen in these prospect rankings. And I have them also pulled up because, like I said, I'm not wearing my glasses right now, and I am really sort of blind when it comes to that. So let's take a look at it. Let's talk about some of the changes here and what you want to point out. We see the top 5 shaken up drastically. Parada still remains number one from what I've seen, and I'm looking at the MLB site, right? And their update. Luis Angel slots in at number 2. Ronny Mauricio is number 3, and Drew Gilbert's at number 4. Obviously, the Mets this deadline added their second-ranked prospect in their system now, their 4th, their 6th, and their 9th. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10 prospects that you added in 1 week in your system.
Yeah.
Let me hear you, because you're a little bit more in tune with the prospects and sort of keeping up with them. Did anything surprise you in the rankings? And just go over the new prospect rankings and your thoughts about them. And we'll get to 15 through 30 at the end at 2, because we have some new shakeups there too.
Yeah. Well, first off, a little just things to keep in mind. This is a list. They just slotted the new guys into where they thought they would be based on where they came from and whatnot. But they haven't updated this list since, I don't know, a few months ago. They're going to release a new update that will also include our drafted players that are not listed here. So this is going to shake up again. I would not be surprised if Acuna is number 1 when that happens. Now, some other lists, again, and another thing to remember, everybody has a different list. This is MLB Pipeline. Keith Law has his own list. Baseball Prospectus has their own list. Baseball America has their own list. All these different outlets have different rankings. So just bear that in mind with this. But yeah, it's interesting to see Acuna slide in already at 2. They kept Mauricio at 3. Gilbert slides in right underneath him. Then you got Jet and then Clifford. So you got, how many of these guys ended up? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 guys added to our top 10. I mean, it's pretty impressive if you think about it. Granted, our system wasn't that heavy to begin with, but yeah, I mean, I can't argue with it. This is what I'll say. So, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to do this on the fly here. So I have the list because I made it. I was going to do another video on it. I just released, by the way, I call it Talking Farm on the Farm. I just released a video like right before this.
Go check that out. I did see that. I haven't seen it yet, but if you're listening, go check that out. It's on Nelson's YouTube.
So, and what I did there is I just did like a little scouting report on every guy that got traded to us, including the Escobar deal way back when. So I went through every trade that we traded and got prospects, and I just did a little scouting report on each. What I didn't do, and I was thinking of doing, is drop my own little list here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you guys what my list would be based on, but I'm adding the drafted guys. So I would have Acuna 1. I'm putting Gilbert at 2. Parada at 3. Ronny 4. Jet would be 5. I will do Clifford 6. I would put the new kid Houck, or however, I think that's how you say it, Colin Houck, at 7. I'd have Vargas at 8. Alex Ramirez at 9. And I'd go Vassell at 10. That's my top 10. That's obviously the one draftee is in there. I'd have Sprout. Again, I don't know how you say his name necessarily, but I'd have him just within that top 15 as well. Those are the only 2 drafted guys I'd put in there. That Christian Scott was going to be moving way up. Like, I don't see him. Is he on the list, the second list here?
Let me check. Let me pull that up for you right there.
Yeah, they have him way down at 29. Christian Scott's going to move into the top 15. I wouldn't be shocked at all. He's the way he's performed, he's going to move up. You're going to see Coleman Crow move way down because he's been hurt. He might be off the list. I'm not going to lie. So just Budo hasn't done much. He might move down a little more. Reimer might move up a little bit because he's been actually having a very good season. Yeah, you're gonna see some movement. Marceau has sucked. I don't know that he belongs anywhere on the top 30. You're gonna see more movement here. Look for that here in the next week or two for the updated list. You can't be mad at what we did. We have beefed up our system with talent, and I didn't even mention the Hernandez kid that we got, the dude from the Angels that we got. Forget his name, Jeremiah Jackson. He's in there in the 20s. That kid that we got for FAM, he's raw. He's not on the top 30 yet, but I could see him in the updated rankings make the top 30 for sure. We have that other pitcher, Jarvis, that he's at, I think, 15 right now.
Yep.
He's in AAA. He'll probably be able to. He might get a call up this year, to be honest. We did something that's unthinkable. No team has been able to add this much talent to their farm system in such a short period of time. It just doesn't happen. And it's because our owner's willing to basically pay for prospects. So
no, I definitely agree. That's pretty interesting. The Justin Jarvis one at 15 was surprising. I think you have Calvin Ziegler. I haven't heard much of Ziegler in a while. I know he picked up some steam last year. Have you heard from him?
He's been hurt, I'm pretty sure. So that's why. But before he got hurt, he was pitching well. I think he'll be a name to really look out for next year as long as he's healthy. And Crow's got talent if he can get healthy. He's got elbow problems and he hasn't pitched since, I don't know, April, I think so. But yeah, there's talent there, man. And some of these kids that we don't talk about, I've done some due diligence on some of these guys. That Daverson Gutierrez that's down there at 30, he's a catcher, another catcher. We signed him for pretty big money as an international free agent. I think it was last year. That Santos kid looks promising. There's a lot of talent that we haven't even touched on. That there's years away, but these are guys that are in the Dominican League and whatnot, and they could make some noise too. So don't just pay attention to the big names. I'll do some more videos too on these guys, but there's a lot of guys that are going to be very, very fun to watch. And Jet Williams is my favorite prospect, by the way. I saw a comment there. He's phenomenal. He looks like Dustin Pedroia at the plate. It's almost identical, to be honest, their swings. I really like Jet Williams. Is probably my favorite prospect we have right now.
Interesting stuff. Shout out Stevie Mac for that fact. Jet Williams and Joe DeMayo's rankings moving up to number 2. Real quickly, I know we got about 5 minutes left. We'll have a little bit 5 minutes left. Briefly, let's touch on these 3 guys that I put in here for some graphics. We got number 1, we got Luis Angel Acuna, obviously hitting 315 with 40-plus stolen bases in the Rangers farm system in AA. Made his debut going 0 for 4 for the Rumble Ponies just recently. Had a base knock that I saw. Nice little opposite field base knock. His stance, smack like his brothers, man. I swear. His hands and positioning of his hands where he starts reminds me a lot of Ronald Acuna Jr. So, what's like, is he going to be more of a, would you slot him in, like, just spitballing, more of a middle infield, up the middle with Lindor, depending on what happens with McNeil? Or would you rather see him get a lot more reps in the outfield? Obviously, they're probably going to do both while he's down there, but what would you rather prefer?
I'd rather, if I'm assuming we're keeping Acuna and Williams, which I would because I love them both, I'd rather Acuna play second and move Williams to the outfield. I think that middle infield with Acuna and Lindor could be absolutely dynamic and like mind-blowing. Like I got real high hopes for that. So that's personally what I would do. We'll see what they end up doing, but I would definitely keep Acuna in the middle infield.
Sounds good. Are you doing this trade right here? I'm not sure if I'm doing this. I'm waiting till Juan Soto is a free agent in
I was
2020.
gonna say I want to wait till he's a free agent. Why waste bullets when you don't have to? Unless he like demands a trade at some point, and maybe we can hold them over a barrel a little bit. But I wouldn't send them that much. I wouldn't.
Completely agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I'll just wait till 2025 at that point. Unless that little circumstance happens where he just is like, hey, I want out, and then maybe send him two, but I'm not sending all three of those guys, and maybe, a little fleece job there and just get the Padres to take anything. So this guy, Drew Gilbert, the real deal or not? I saw he was hitting 240 in AA in the Astros system. Is he the real deal? I know he was a stud at Tennessee when he was there. Great arm in the outfield, nice lefty, has some power too. What's the deal with Gilbert? Is he someone that you're comfortable with moving forward in the outfield, or is he going to be more of trade bait to you? Is he the real deal? Because I know the guy we're going to talk about afterward, Mr. Ryan Clifford, is also a big name to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, Clifford looks like he could be your future center fielder. You're going to slide Nimmo out of center. This guy covers a ton of ground. He has a pretty solid arm. He plays with a ton of energy, which I love. I love that in a player. He can get a little too hyped at times. He's got to rein it in a little bit.
You're talking about Clifford or Gilbert?
No, Gilbert. Gilbert
okay.
He can get a little too hyped. You see videos of him. He's like super emotional, which isn't a bad thing.
When he hit a home run off a guy and he cussed him out right after.
It isn't a bad thing, but he's got to rein it in just a little bit. I like him. I wouldn't say he's a untouchable. Like, I wouldn't trade him in the right package, but I prefer to keep a guy like him. If we're talking about our prospects and talking about guys that I would like to keep over the trade bait, Acuna, Williams, Gilbert, those are my three for sure. I love Parada, but if it needs to be in a deal, I'm not going to argue over it. That Vargas kid, I hear tons of great things about, but again, not a kid I'm going to like just clutch onto and not be willing to give up. Clifford, I'm on the fence. Clifford looks like he could be even better than Gilbert, which is saying something. But again, with them, I think it's either or. Like, I would definitely try to keep one of them, but I guess I would be okay with dealing one if we had to. Again, it depends on who we're getting. So it's like a right package kind of deal. But I'll definitely Williams, Acuna, and Gilbert are guys that I would try my best to not include in any trades.
It's nice that Gilbert and Clifford are also lefties. Also, side note, Clifford hit a home run for the Brooklyn Cyclones, an A-ball, in his first at-bat in the Mets organization. So plenty of talent coming up. Aaron, this is more of a question for you, Nelson. Aaron asks, where do you watch these guys, these prospects? Either it's online, YouTube highlights, or a mixture of both. He's never watched the Mets prospects before.
Yeah, man, you just got to, like, there's a ton of prospect guys on Twitter that you could follow. They're always posting videos of these dudes. You could definitely find stuff on YouTube. You just Google these kids. Sometimes you'll find stuff. And if you happen to have the MLB package, they actually air as part of it a lot of these minor league games as well. So you may not be able to see some of the like super younger kids like in the Dominican League and stuff like that, but I think they air like Brooklyn games and Binghamton and Syracuse. So you'd be able to see some of these kids play. So the information's out there. You just got to look for it. Joe DeMayo is a great guy to follow. Mike Mayer on Twitter is another good guy. There's a couple others handles. I'd have to look for them and maybe drop them in another episode or in a comment or something. But there's some really good guys. Like, they like super focused on just the minor leaguers mostly. So yeah, just be on the lookout.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, man. Honestly, like I'm in tune with some of these prospects, but I don't do deep dives into the prospects like you do. I wanted to touch on them in this episode. I'm glad that we did. Sort of differentiating them, sort of giving them some shout outs and, just sort of following up like, the Mets did a good thing this trade deadline. And I think that gets, glossed over the fact that they cut their losses and now this farm system, I think like people don't know if you're not in tune with the Mets like farm system. This farm system in 2022, it is night and day compared to what it is just 1 year later. And like Nelson said, that takes some teams with the amount that the Mets got from 2022 to 2023 across the board, whether it's in the draft, it's both the draft and the trade deadline. That takes some years, 3 to 4 years to do. So the Mets really have sped up their, I wouldn't even say rebuild, I wouldn't say retool. They sped up their insurance a lot. And yeah, it's an exciting thing. So I think that, we have to do our due diligence in terms of making sure people are aware of that as well. But other than that, I didn't really have anything else that we needed to touch on. Those are our topics for today. Nelson, is there anything else, any final words you want to get to? But that's it for me. I got nothing else. I appreciate everyone tuning in. The usuals, Aaron, Stevie, Mac, Yoshinobu,
I love that.
all the guys, man, all the guys. I appreciate the regulars. So anything else you want to say before we hop off here?
Yeah, no, gotta love the regulars. And just a final thought on these prospects. They're lottery tickets, man. That's basically what they are. You're collecting lottery tickets and hoping you cash on. You want to cash on more than one, obviously. You want to try to cash on a couple, 3, 4 guys. But that's what it is. It's lottery tickets. None of us can predict the future. These guys can look like sure things and end up being crap. We've seen it tons of times with the Mets. It wouldn't be anything new. But the more you stack talent, the more it can help you. They either end up actually being good or you can trade them for somebody really good. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, thank everybody for watching. Like I said before, this isn't going to be the greatest 2 months in the world. It's going to be tough. Hang in there. We'll find things to talk about. We'll make shit up if we have to. We'll figure something
That's
out.
Right. Yeah. We'll be here.
But we'll be here. So feel free to follow along, and we hope you subscribe to both our channels at Amish Country Mets Fan here, at CPNY Sports over there. And yeah, appreciate all of you. Have a good night.
Yeah, no, exactly like you said. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you hit that thumbs up on this video. Definitely appreciate that. Subscribe to both of our channels. Appreciate you commenting, everybody that tuned in. Make sure you're subscribing to Nelson's channel at Amish Country Mets Fan. Make sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel at CPNY Sports. We are going to be more active, or try to be at least, alongside our personal Twitters on the Interstate Mets Twitter. But in case we don't get that up and running, my Twitter and Instagram is at CPNY Sports. And you can find Nelson at Amish Country Met, not at Amish Country Mets Fan, but Amish Country Met on Twitter. But yeah, man, always a pleasure. This is going to be a tough little.
It's not Twitter anymore. It's X.
It's X. I know. Oh my god, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to call it anymore. We'll see. We'll see if it reverts back. But yeah, I don't know.
This bird down here we got down here, dude. You have to change it to a big X.
I know, man. We gotta change it to the new logo. We'll see. But yeah, man. Honestly, I appreciate it. It was a good discussion. I love it. Nelson, thank you so much for doing these shows and coordinating this stuff. We're gonna be on here again on Tuesday. We'll find some topics. Rest assured we'll find some topics. And if it means we have to come up here for an hour and just BS our way through it because the Mets are just not providing any content, then we're going to do it. So, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And as always, man, I know win or lose at this point, let's go Mets, and we'll see you all the next time.
See ya.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report. Streaming Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to at Amish Country Mets Fan and at CPNY Sports.